In professional sports, a franchise player is an athlete who is not simply the best player on their team, but one that the team can build their franchise around for the foreseeable future.
Welcome into a brand new edition of Franchise Players here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Part of your TGI Friday lineup. You can hear it every Friday afternoon in the Triad, WWBG 1470 AM, starting at 3 o'clock on Fridays. You can hear Franchise Players at 5 o'clock on Fridays on WWBG. If you missed it, you can hear it in Winston on WTOB, 980 AM, 96.7 FM at 6 p.m. And, of course, online at TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Loaded show today. Got a lot to get to. Conor ONeill from Deacons Illustrated and Devils Illustrated will join us to talk a little ACC hoops. We haven't had a chance to really do that the past couple of weeks. We're about to start conference play. A couple big games this weekend we'll preview for you, including talking a little bit about this Wake Forest team. They're actually a lot better than people thought they were going to be, maybe top 5 in ACC, so we'll get into that as well. And then also on today's show, I forgot who else I put besides. We'll get to that in just a bit. But before we do all that, opening up the show, friend of the program, friend of the station, Jaelen Gilkey from WFMY sports anchor. What's up, man? What's going on? I can talk to you in a minute.
What's up, Des, man? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a happy New Year. Appreciate you having me back, buddy. I know you had me on hiatus.
No, Rundown's not on, so that's why I haven't really had you on. I don't think I was ducking you or anything.
I'm just giving you a hard time, buddy.
So for those that are new, previously on the Rundown, like I haven't had a Rundown on since the summer. I think we stopped in the NBA Finals, yeah. And then to be honest, I had picked up so much stuff. It was like I couldn't do football Friday night and then that turnaround and do Rundown live. And I was like, let me just wait till football's over and kind of see where I am. And since then, I've picked up like 2 or 3 other podcasts and some other stuff. So I don't know if I'm doing Rundown. Yeah. So I don't know.
You're the man in high demand.
Yeah. Everybody wants to talk to the guy that's still the Panther fan. Because look, I gotta give Jaelen props because during the preseason, when everybody's 0-0 and there's roster moves and things of that sort, Jaelen, along with Skylar Callahan, my partner in crime from Believe in Panthers.
Shout out my buddy Skylar.
He was very specific that the Panthers were somewhat top heavy, didn't have a lot of depth. Jalen's main thing was, who's your number one wide receiver, and you just wasn't sold on Frank Wright, like really from the beginning. And lo and behold, my man made it 12 weeks before they had him up out of here. And it sounds like a lot of internal fighting going on between the coaches, and we've peeled back the onion since the last time I saw Jaelen with his Panther franchise, and it's very stinky. And I know you have to cover them. same as me and these other content creators. You have to actually just like your job. So let's talk about that first. What's this year been like having to cover this edition of the Carolina Panthers? Because although record-wise they're not going to finish as the worst Panther team of all time, I think we've all kind of got to the conclusion. Yeah, and that was a 9-7
in a tsunami 9-7 game. No touchdown for the Panthers
on a walk-off field goal
in front of 6,000 people.
And most of them weren't even our fans. Like probably about 50 of them were Panther fans. So I mean, just what runs through your head when you're like on the sidelines and you're kind of watching this go down? And do you fear for Bryce Young's life on the field? Like what are you thinking? Because you're a Ravens fan, so you're watching this from the outside in. Absolutely. And this is dysfunction that I mean, I've been with the team as a fan since the very beginning, 95, and they've had periods. This
is the worst it's ever.
This is the worst by far. So, what are your thoughts?
I think this would be like a low for a lot of franchises in the NFL. Honestly, just where the Panthers are at this point, lack of assets, owner that's a little bit rambunctious, to say in the best nicest way possible. He's a bit rambunctious.
My man just don't be told no. We'll get to Tepper.
We'll get there.
We'll get to Tepper.
We have a roster that lacks talent. Offensive line that has struggled in pass protection, basically since Cam Newton got his shoulder blown out that game against T.J. Watt in the Steelers. it's just not great. The defense has been, consistent, but when you're not scoring points, it's hard to be a, formidable opponent every week when you're going out there and your offense. It's a better chance your offense doesn't score a touchdown than you guys scoring 20 points. Like
Facts. Yeah.
That's unfortunate, but that's where the Panthers are right now, and I hate to see it. It does make Sundays a little bit, I don't even know what the proper adjective is for that. The feelings that I have.
It's a chore.
It is a chore. It's like I'm going. Yeah. It's like I'm going to work. It's not like I'm going because I'm super fortunate and super blessed to have the opportunity to be in the building at these games and to cover these teams and to talk to the guys and all of the above, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like you. And so when it's not enjoyable to like go do that. It makes me feel so like not unfortunate, ungrateful. Like I feel ungrateful. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm because I know it's a lot of people that really don't like their job, and they just do it to pay their bills. But I happen to be able to be in a position where I love what I do, and for that to be like one of the best parts of what's supposed to be a highlight to not really be that, that's kind of unfortunate.
Do you think that I haven't really seen it through the TV, but do you feel like players were checked out? I mean, it'd be natural at this point if they have. There have been spurts. It looks like they've been.
I think the guys. I mean, from what they let us see and what we hear, I think the guys have done a good job. Staying professional and realizing that this year isn't just a wash. The only person that's really seemed to be very and I wouldn't even say disconnected. He's just disappointed. He's Shaq Thompson. Just to listen to him.
He had a rough year, just not being able to play.
Not even really being able to play. And how important this year is to him. In his career, because he's been in the league a couple years now at this point, so it's like
and he took kind of a shorter deal, well, less money to come back and play, and then brace his leg first game of the year.
Exactly.
It's just a comedy.
So he's the only person that I really kind of feel like he has a little bit of I wouldn't say venom, but he has a little bit of animosity in him right now, just because of the situation and how everything is unfolding. And he's just sitting on the sidelines like, I can't even put any numbers on the board to get paid.
Yeah.
And to, show people that, what I'm saying.
This is the thing I'm worried about the most.
It's like a missed opportunity.
Because Shaq really is the last remnant of great Panther team. Like the 2015 Panther team, I think he was a rookie on that team. He's one of the last ones that actually understand what keep pounding means and like the legacy and all that stuff. Because I know people joke with me all the time, like, oh, you never won a Super Bowl and all that stuff. That's true, but they've been around 27
years. They won a
years.
lot of games, man.
They won games. There was a point when they were nationally relevant with Cam Newton here, and it was fun to cover them, and that we're so far away from that now. Where now the Panthers are literally the laughing stock of the NFL. And like I said on Believe in Panthers this week, I told them, this is the first week in my fandom of the Carolina Panthers where I did not feel like wearing a Carolina Panthers hoodie like this week. Like just genuinely.
That's a low point.
Yeah, it really is. And not just for the way they played on field, because they played horribly on Sunday. That was probably the worst game they played.
Especially after how they looked against Green Bay.
That's what I'm saying. In the rain.
And that was the worst part about it. I was like, yo, what is really going on?
I don't know. It's almost like, well, you know what it really was? And thinking back on the offseason, how I was raving about this Avengers coaching unit, which sounds comical now in hindsight and everything else. I think it was too many cooks.
They're all unemployed.
Yeah, they're all unemployed now. It's almost like it was too many cooks in the kitchen, the way it sounds. And then
we know who the master chef is the issue. Like,
yeah, well, see, I don't know if Tepper's actually a chef or he's just like the super.
He's a guy with a lot of money. He said, I bought a restaurant. I'm going to be the chef. I cook at home.
Yeah, I cook at home. Y'all go eat this too. Oh, you don't like it? That's fine. He's still going to eat it. Like, he's one of these dudes. He's starting to show himself. And I know by now everybody's seen this video of David Tepper throwing this water out the window. The NFL fined him $300,000.
You think it was water?
There wasn't a whole lot in that cup. I think it was more backwash than anything else, which is even grosser. Like in today's world,
gin and tonic backwash.
To me, the two parts of the video,
melted ice cubes.
Yeah, the two parts that got me was his flip. Like after he threw it, it was like a cup. Like a demonstrative, like and then
I did it.
Yeah, he's like, I did it, and then he gets out the screen, and then it's the demeanor of Scott Fitterer
the whole time.
Change. doesn't move, doesn't look.
Because he already knew. He's seen this before to some
That's what I was
extent.
going to ask you. Do you think this is behavior he's seen before?
Scott Fitterer has seen this before to some extent, and he already knew. He said he about to pour this drink on this dude.
He knew before he threw it. That's why he's just like,
because Tepper probably tapped him and was like, "No, I'm finna throw my drink on him. He got me messed up." You know what I'm saying? Like,
here we go, and then it just went down. It's like, because think about that. Like, say you were Scott Fitterer and you're standing there. Wouldn't your natural inclination be to look at David Tepper as he's throwing it? Like yo,
yeah, he didn't budge.
He didn't budge. Then look at him just straight ahead. It just, yep. And I'm just like sitting there watching the whole thing. That was my first thought. What you just said. Oh, that's not the first time something crazy like that's happened. He's seen that before. That behavior. That's normal to Scott. And my second thought was, oh, Scott Fitterer's safe. Scott Fitterer ain't getting fired on Monday. Scott Fitterer is his little henchman or whatever. Like if he was getting fired on Monday, we would have seen a different Scott Fitterer in that booth on Sunday. Like, what are you doing?
If I knew I was getting fired on Monday, I'd have walked out.
Yeah, I would just walked out, like, or something, or just anything.
This is so embarrassing, bro. When I saw that, I just couldn't believe it. I wish my boss would.
Right. Drinking me. Plus, he lucky too, because that could have been the wrong person in Duval County that he threw that on. For where he was in Jacksonville. I mean,
you wouldn't have to worry about firing me. I'd have quit.
Yeah. Like,
we can work together anymore.
That's insanity. So now I'm like, so how hard do you think it's going to be for them to attract a coach with this now? Or do you think by the time they even get to that point, it's going to matter? Because he is still the second richest owner in the league. And
he is.
You know my dream. You know what I want. I wanted it last year. I want Harbaugh. I want him here. I still want him here.
Well, I was about to say Lamar Jackson.
Oh yeah, I wanted him too. Everybody can see why. Lamar Jackson is completing the best 8 months of his life, like right now, between getting the bag.
Yeah, that is a crazy year.
He's gonna probably win MVP.
Yeah, y'all man's blessed. That's unbelievable.
And I saw he's gonna win MVP without a 1,000-yard rusher or a 1,000-yard receiver, which is crazy. So, and I've got Baltimore.
He's that guy.
Yeah, Baltimore. Hey, Lamar's that dude. And like I said, teams usually have 3-4 year windows, right? Like for them to win championships. I've kind of harped on that. I think we're seeing that fourth year of Kansas City right now, like in terms of them going this way. Buffalo too, a little bit. Ravens are going up. Before I go over to those, I want to stop in college football real quick because I watched both national semifinals.
Yeah, you did say Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. Jim took me to another place. So my dream. My dream is Michigan, Washington Monday night national championship. Michigan wins the national title. Jim Harbaugh leaves the next day. Like he's got a contract on the table from Michigan. It's like $120 million over 10 years. He hasn't signed it. He's hired an agent. So I think he's still thinking about coming back to the NFL. And a lot of people forget he was sniffing around the Panthers. The Panthers weren't sniffing around him. He was calling us for some reason.
Man, I think it's. I know what your dream is, but I think your dream may have shattered this weekend. Bro.
I think it did too. I think when he did that cup flip,
I think he scared a lot. I think David Tepper scared a lot of people off this weekend.
God, because Ben Johnson was the hot name. Everybody was saying.
I don't think anybody in the world is going to want to come here. Now, I mean, somebody's going to take the job.
Somebody's going to take the money because even if the track record shows, even if you don't make it through the 4 years, you're getting 4 years of pay. So actually, that's the dream job. Like if you're only going to let me work 12 games, or you're going to still pay me for 65 or whatever. Mm-hmm. All right, fine. I'll come in here and see what we're going to do. But it's almost like Scott Fitterer is GM in name only. But like
that's what it feels like, right?
Every decision he has to take it to Tepper and be like.
But that's the problem because it's the same thing with the coach. Yes,
and I think Frank Wright didn't know that coming in.
Probably
Have you seen the side by side of Frank Wright, like when they announced him being coach, and like the day?
I'd imagine he aged like a president.
Dude, he even more worse. Like he was completely gray. Like he looks disheveled. He's got a gray beard. Like he looks like he went through it in like 3 months. And
I couldn't imagine. That's just so terrible. Like
it's so terrible. And
so terrible.
Yeah, I saw he's selling his house and everything, but
I just feel so bad for all my Panther Nation friends, all my keep pounding family out there.
It's been rough. And you've checked on me every couple of weeks. You'll check in on me on Sunday, be like, yo, you breathing? Yeah, you all right? I'm like, man, it's the same game every week. It's the same rock fight every single week.
4 field goals.
Yeah, 4 field goals. We're going to lose. We can't score 16 points. The other team scores 20. Game over.
Game over.
It's so hard.
Right. Only giving up 22, 21, 24. Not really giving up too many points.
Nah, as soon as they cross 18 points, it's a wrap. Like, regardless of what the Panthers
Any
have.
team that crosses 18 is over for you.
Because we just can't do it. Like, I've never seen a team do so much to go get a number one quarterback in their eyes and dismantle the offense to go get them. Like, they literally dismantled the offense.
That was my whole thing.
And
then, I think the most infuriating thing about this whole Panther situation is the fact that Brian Burns still doesn't have a contract.
Bro, Tepper hasn't given out a deal to anyone but McCaffrey.
If you were going to pay, if you weren't going to pay DJ, cool. You trade him.
Well, DJ already had an extension. Like, DJ got his extension right before.
If you weren't going to pay Brian, I don't. Exactly. Right. So you say you want to keep Brian, but you don't give him a deal. He does everything right. He holds in. He's at training camp. He does everything that you need him to do.
Yep.
He comes out. He plays. He didn't have a great year this year, but no one on the Panthers team had a great year.
Right.
Except for Derek Brown.
Derek Brown. Yeah.
Derek Brown had an exceptional year.
I still don't know how he didn't get voted into the Pro Bowl as a starter.
No sense, but it's because the team is so bad.
Yeah,
nobody's watching. No one's watching.
They don't believe it. They don't believe it.
So
it must be
they
can't have 99 tackles.
Man.
Like, it's impossible.
It's just so bad. It's so bad. You don't pay Brian Burns, and now what do we do? So now he's gonna walk. I mean, you're gonna tag him, but he's gonna be.
It's not gonna be happy. Yeah,
I would imagine he's gonna hold out for real this time.
See, and
now do you trade him now? It's like, what are we doing?
It never. Whenever you
could have kept DJ Moore, and then at least you would have had somebody. And Thielen, then those are two options that you could have had for your rookie quarterback, even though your line was not that great.
At this point in hindsight, I'd have been fine with them staying at 9, drafting Jaelen Carter from Georgia, putting him beside Derek Brown with Brian Burton, like build a defense. Like I'm fine in 16, 14 games if we've got a top 3 defense. And
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if the quarterback I like this year, because I know you were saying if you stay at 9, you draft.
Yeah.
Jaelen Carter, you put him next to Derek Brown. That means you're still looking for a quarterback this year.
But I'm assuming they would have signed Andy Dalton, so that would have
been right. You got Andy Dalton, but still, he's not your long-term solution. So you're still looking for a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah,
exactly. You're looking for a quarterback in the first round. Yeah, because you're only going to win 7 games, maybe.
Do you think after covering them this year, we're supposed to sports buffet. We're just going to stay in the Panthers here. Okay. Do you think, as an outsider looking in, but someone that covers the team, do you think they made the right choice for Bryce? Or do you think there was another quarterback they should have got instead?
I mean, looking at the year, of course, you're going to say it looks like they should have took CJ, but I still think Bryce is a great quarterback. Yeah. He can be a great quarterback. But he came in with so much confidence from what I saw at rookie minicamp, and then the confidence has just been diminished because the product has been so bad and he's getting beat up and there's no receivers and no one's open except for Thielen. You got to force feed him the ball. You got to make a great throw to get him the ball because the scheme's not there.
Yeah.
And then the guys aren't there that you need to be successful. The line is porous. So it's like
it's the same line. It's the same line.
It's so bad. It's so bad. I'm sorry.
It's like everything had to.
And now, like, you can't even fix it this year. Like, you have those. Because how many picks do the Panthers have this year? I know you know.
I think they got
maybe
6.
3.
They have 6. But nothing in the first.
They got second round this year. Okay,
yeah, they have a second round this year.
They got the first pick of the second round.
Yeah, they gave the Bears the second round pick next year in that deal. So they do have, it'll be like the 33rd pick or whatever, unless Fitter trades it or something. Nothing in the first. It's a heavy wide receiver draft, so it may not hurt that they don't have a first.
Yeah,
you didn't have a first.
I mean, you could take I guess you take a first a wide receiver like somebody the best available in the first pick of the second round.
Now,
I really think they need another tackle.
Oh, I hadn't even got to Icky.
Because I mean, maybe we can move Icky to the right side and then you got to get a lefty. You got to get
Braden Christensen was like the highest rated left tackle coming out of college, but for whatever reason, Matt Rule thought his arms were too short, so he didn't want to put him at left tackle. They put him at left guard, and then he got hurt first game of the year, so he's missed the whole season. So I think a lot of the fans are thinking you move Icky inside the left tackle or left guard and put Christensen at left tackle. That might fix some of it. Or just having Christensen beside him, because he had Christensen beside him last year, and he played a little better because I think he was getting more help. What you're talking about scheme, It almost looked like Frank Wright didn't do right
the scheme that Matt Rule ran last year was a little bit more similar to what NC State was running, so he's probably a little bit more.
Yeah, or even when Steve Wilkes took over and they started running downhill, that was more Ickey's game as opposed to the spread offense. But they just, this is week 18 we're about to go into. Week 16, I believe, me and my guys realized they were finally running plays where they were scheming guys open. Now you see Adam Thielen starting out and he's coming across, Bryce's vision. Oh, and all of a sudden he's wide open.
Wide open.
Oh, look at that. You can scheme him out open. So I mean,
I like DJ Chark too, though. I'm not gonna lie, I like DJ Chark, but it's just like
he's like a 3 or like a 4. You know what I mean?
He's
like
a 3. He's definitely a 3.
Strong. Yeah, he's a good, solid 3. I want them to go after T. Higgins, like from Cincinnati. He's gonna be a free agent. He went to Clemson. It makes sense.
I like it.
Young age, matching with Bryce, and then you still got they're gonna have like $50 million in cap room or whatever, even after they extend Burns, and they better extend Frankie Louvu or they're gonna burn Bank of America Stadium down. Like Louvu has become like a state treasure. Like, don't let him go. Like,
have to. Yes, I mean, he's really like I would say he's the only guy you can really, and I really hate to say it like this, but just the way the season has gone, he was the only guy that you look back at and say he really brought it every week.
Yeah, through injury, through everything. I mean,
and Derrick Brown, of course, Derrick Brown.
Derrick Brown turned into a man this year.
He was
like
balling, man.
Ragdolling people. So I mean, so they don't have a first round pick. We won't really be able to fully evaluate Bryce Young until probably 2025. To be honest.
I'm about to say you're right on it, Des.
I mean, it's like because it's gonna be the same situation where
next year it's not gonna be any better.
Yeah, they got some money.
You're not gonna get. You might not get a. I mean, you're gonna get some free agents. You're gonna get some free agents, but you're not gonna get a free agent that's gonna be.
Let's see, and even
game changer that's coming in.
The free agents that came in this past offseason, most of them came in because of their relationship with Frank Wright. Like they came in through that. Like, so I'm kind of like, okay, so who? Let's say you do luck out and Jim Harbaugh decides to come here and you pay him $15 million a year or whatever nonsense, and you give him some front office responsibility, which is why he left 49ers in the first place. All that would be fine because that takes Tepper kind of out of it a little bit.
You think Fitterer is just going to be like, okay?
I don't know. I think he needs to be. I mean, maybe the cup thing is kind of was his sign to be like, you know what? Maybe I'm doing a little too much. But on the other hand, though, we've talked about this. I've never been somebody to be like someone who owns a small business. I've never been the one to be like to tell a man what to do with his business. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like I don't feel right saying David Tepper is doing too much with his business. It's his business. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to stand out there for practice every day, hey man, you own the Panthers. You go out there and do it. You did it, brother. You paid it. So I can't be mad at him for being involved. And he definitely wants to win, that's for sure. But
I mean, he's already tried the involved route. I think maybe he tried the step back route and see what happens. Maybe trust my guy's route and then go from there. Because what you've done so far has been, I mean, since he purchased the Panthers, it's been downhill.
Worst record in the league since 2018. Really, since that hit on Cam Newton, they've had the worst record in the NFL. Yeah. They have not had a winning season in 6 seasons since he's owned the team. And to make it worse, he bought the team for $2.5 billion in 2018. The team is now worth 6.2. So with all that,
he's not going anywhere.
No, he ain't going nowhere. I keep seeing all these. He should sell the team. I'm like, are you crazy? Like he don't have to even. He can keep meddling, and it's going to be worth $10 billion. And
he'll have to be voted out before he sells the team.
And they've never voted an NFL owner out. I was looking it up the other day. Like an NFL owner has never been voted out. Even Daniel Snyder, he was never voted out. He just eventually sold the Commanders because he was tired of dealing with it.
Yeah, he was whatever.
So, and he hasn't. And Tepper hasn't even done anything close to what Snyder did.
No, at all. That's the thing. Like he's nowhere close to that. And they didn't even fire him, or they didn't even get him out.
They were just like, well,
he's sold. I mean, they made him do it. They probably voted to get him out, but they just never publicized it.
You remember he had the thing where he put out that tweet that he had some dirt like on owners or whatever, and it just kind of went away. And then like he sold it like a month later. So I completely left out all this other stuff because we just went through Panther stuff. And because Jim Szoke, that's what happened. Jim Zoke's coming up a little bit later. So it's going to be even more Panther talk here in a little bit. But I got to let Jaelen go. I'll especially now with NBA on and everything else. I keep missing Brandon because he started working again. I know you guys are doing that Duke podcast also. Yeah. So now as ACC basketball is going
Duke's on. Duke's in the gridiron, baby.
Yeah, I'll start bringing you both on. We'll start talking because I don't have to duck and hide anymore about my Tar Heels. I think they're back. I think they're actually.
That's really what I wanted to talk about because you always say I'm a Tar Heel hater. You
Do
think I'm yeah?
Who do you like in college basketball? Who's your team?
I'm really neutral. I don't have a college basketball.
Oh,
team.
okay.
Like,
Nah, you're a Panther hater, but I never thought you were a Tar Heel hater. And I don't even think you're a Panther hater. You just kind of from afar. You're just like, ugh.
Like,
Like, good luck, fellas.
Good luck, fellas.
See what y'all do with that. And like, I was so happy last offseason that Matt Rule was gone.
That was the thing, Des, and I was really trying to prevent you from feeling like this. I'm like, dog, you're really believing. But see, check this out, right? Because since we haven't talked all season online, I know you got to go.
Yeah.
You hired a guy who got fired 2 months before you hired him.
I know. You know what it was? It was a Charlotte connection. Because that was why I like Steve Wilkes, and like he had the same story. So I'm like, oh well.
Hey, how many bottles of champagne you think Steve Wilkes popped?
Boy, Steve Wilkes dodged a bullet. I wonder if Steve was even gonna take the job if offered, because he probably saw all this nonsense too. Like, that's the thing. I'm waiting for 10, 15 years from now for the movie to come out, and we can see all this stuff like behind the scenes. Kevin Costner is Frank Wright, like David Tepper flipping tables all over the place in the office. Like, I'm ready to see this. So I got to get you out of here. Coming up next in just a bit, we'll have Jim Szoke on. We'll continue this conversation with the Panthers head coaching candidates. How much did it really affect the head coaching search from David Tepper's actions on Sunday? And who would he like to see come in here and try to clean this up? This is going to be like a 3-4 year project, like for real. Like, I'm seriously sitting here considering Cam Newton for team president. He's been campaigning.
One thing, right? One thing is positive. You already lost your hair, so it can't stress you out that much.
That's true. That's true. Like, it would have, if I hadn't lost it, it would have been all gone this year for sure. Like week 5.
You would have been done.
You'd have been done. Me out. Like, oh my God, what are y'all doing? Score more than 10 points, please. So we'll be back in just a bit. You're listening to Franchise Players here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
In professional sports, a franchise player is an athlete who is not simply the best player on their team, but one that the team can build their franchise around for the foreseeable future.
Welcome back into Franchise Players here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Part of your WWBG TGI Friday Sports Talk lineup. You can hear us here at 5 p.m. every Friday afternoon. Or if you miss it, catch the encore on WTOB 96.7 FM, 980 AM in Winston-Salem at 6 p.m. every Friday. Joining me now, part of the Panthers Radio Network, our friend Jim Szoke in the house. What's going on, Jim?
Desmond, we made it to the finish line. How are you?
We made it. I was just talking to WFMY's Jaelen Gilkey about it because he, like us, we've had to cover this team all year. And I wasn't really intending for the first 2 segments to be Panther-centric with everything going on, but we're gonna put this out with a bang, because this might be one of the last weeks this season where I can seriously. Well, no, not true, because we're gonna be talking coaching search, rebuilding the staff, the drafts coming. So there's still stuff that we're gonna have to discuss here, but that might got a little bit harder with what happened on Sunday. What I wanted to do, Jim, basically do the 2023 Carolina Panther end of season awards with you. You've watched or had to cover every game this season. You've seen the highs and the lows. I was going to say, maybe not highs. You've seen the lows and the really lows. So like, we'll kind of try to figure out who's what here, but I wanted to keep it simple. Let's just start off with the first 2. In your mind, who's the best defensive player for the Panthers this season?
I wish all the questions were this easy. This is the easiest question of any.
That's why I started off with it.
Yeah. Thanks for the warm up here. And the guy deserved to be a Pro Bowl player, not an alternate, obviously, is when you look at Derek Brown and the year he had, and the fact that he's heading into the game, 2 tackles away from tying the record for tackles by a defensive lineman in, I guess, what you call a modern era, probably any era, is amazing. The chance to go over 100 at that, if he just has even a typical day, he'll be over 100. So that's amazing. And I know teams ran against the Panthers a lot. I mean, for the same reason, sacks are down somewhat. Tackles have to be up because they're running the ball against us and so forth. But he earned it. He played hard. He did a lot of really good things, and he just never showed any quit. So absolutely Derek Brown.
Yeah, I didn't realize until I think yesterday or the day before that he was that close to breaking the record. And the record was just broken, I think, last year by defensive tackles. So this isn't like a long-standing one, but the fact that he's three tackles away from 99, I believe it is, right? He's sitting on 96. Yeah,
Right.
I'm pretty sure he's going to get 3 tackles on Sunday from what we've seen.
Don't jinx it. Yeah, don't jinx it.
I mean, dude's been out here ragdolling people like all year, like just kind of tossing them around like small children. So if anyone has taken a huge leap off of this entire roster, I got to say it's Derek Brown. I was shocked that he was not nominated to the Pro Bowl, but like Jaelen said right before you, no one's watching the Panthers, so nobody really knows what Derek Brown's doing. So that's probably why he wasn't voted in. This one might be a little bit harder to pinpoint. Best offensive player for the Carolina Panthers this season.
Well, and it's and again, a lot of these kind of empty calories because of the type of season the team had. But for Adam Thielen to come in here and go over 100 catches, over 1,000 yards, and I get it. It's kind of also kind of a backhanded compliment that nobody else stepped up in the receiver role to kind of help shoulder that more. But give the man his due. Bounce back in his 10th year in the league after the Vikings were done with him to go over 100 catches, over 1,000 yards. Still a game to go in his season. I mean, he's been the consummate pro. His attitude's been great. He has given Bryce Young a reliable, dependable guy in that offense to work with. So to me, just a good team player who obviously put out maximum effort for this team and stayed healthy this year at an older age for a wide receiver. So give Adam Thielen the due that is coming his way for the type of numbers he put up this year.
Yeah, at age 34, Adam Thielen putting up a 100-catch season. I was trying to think. There's only been a couple. I think Smitty and Christian McCaffrey and Moose, I think, are the only 3 in Panthers history that have had 100-catch seasons here. So
I think if he catches like 5, I think McCaffrey's got the top 2. And I think if he catches 5, he'll be at McCaffrey's second place there. So if he just catches a couple, he's got a chance to finish like top 2 in the history of Panthers football. So give him credit for that.
I think that's a pretty good chance that might happen on Sunday too. The weather's supposed to be pretty decent. What do you think the odds are Thielen returns here next year?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think he likes being here. I think he's a family guy. I think they like being here. Now, of course, we all know we can't fully answer anything, so we know who the new head coach is and what offensive coordinator it looks like and what their plans are and what he sees. But I would think, him and Bryce do have a chemistry. He's kind of later in his career. And he's obviously fit in well with what they've done this year. The problem is you can't say, well, he fits what we're doing because we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we'll see what that fit is. But I think in just a kind of general approach and sense and just livability being in Charlotte, spending a year here for a guy that spent his whole career in one place prior to that, I would think that there'd be mutual interest in that.
Panthers Radio Network's Jim Szoke joining us here. Follow him on Twitter at Jim Szoke. We're doing end of season Carolina Panther Awards. I'm not going to get into the whole Teppergate video stuff. I did that with Jaelen right before you. We're not going to spend the whole episode really on that. And now that he's been fine and he took it out of his pocket, paid for it or whatever, I don't know what else will come of it, if anything, by the time we get to the part of the schedule where we can actually start interviewing coaches that are in the playoffs. It may not even be a story anymore, or something else has happened since then. So, which leads me to my next question. Biggest bingo card surprise this season? What's something that's happened this season going from preseason to now that you did not have on your Panthers bingo card happening that actually happened this season? What's the biggest bingo card surprise for you?
Well, I would say, quite honestly, obviously the Tepper thing is not going to be my answer because it's an off the field thing, so to speak. It wasn't like part of the football, the competition. Yeah. To me, I would not have thought going in there was a chance that Frank Reich would not finish the season as head coach because it was thought to be obviously a developmental year. I thought they would probably not have a winning record. I would not have anticipated 2 wins with the possibility of 3, but I would not have anticipated that. But in a bigger sense, I would have thought maybe they were going to win. I would have thought like 6 to 8 games was my wheel of what I would thought if I had to actually think about it and put a number on it, I thought was going to be real. Yeah. So to me, the fact that he didn't survive the first year is probably the biggest thing. That if you told me in preseason that Frank Reich would only make it through 11 games, I would have thought something bigger happened, something off the field, some kind of morals clause, which is the last thing would happen to Frank Reich, obviously. Right, but just something out of the ordinary would have to lead to that more than just the team's play. And to be quite honest, the team's play hasn't changed much since he got let go either. So that would have been certainly on my surprise list, is like, this guy won't be here at the end of the year. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, that's been kind of the thing for me too. I think my biggest surprise, not so much that Frank Reich got fired in the season, because it did get to a point where we all kind of started feeling that this could go down. So it wasn't really a surprise when it actually happened. I think I've been more surprised that the offense doesn't look any different really than what it did when Frank Reich was here, and I think that's based off of our experience last year, where when Matt Rule got fired, 4 games into the season or whatnot. And then when Steve Wilkes took over, the offensive philosophy completely changed. Like you could see it like on the field, like, and it was palatable. It resulted in wins. It resulted in points and yards and everything else. We never got that with it this year, which makes me kind of wonder what exactly were the reasons for Reich's ouster at the time that it happened. It almost feels like something we'll never know until the movie comes out 15 years from now, and Kevin Costner's playing Frank Reich, and you know what I mean? Like Paul Giamatti's playing David Tepper. Like we won't know what exactly led to the ouster, but it does feel like there's something a little bit more than just them being, 1-10 or whatever it was when they did let Reich go internally, that we may never find out. So I think that's my biggest surprise, that the offense didn't really switch. They didn't really lean into some of the strengths of what they have said out loud. They knew the offense was, but they just weren't really doing a whole lot of. Or if they did switch something, it would revert right back the next week. Bryce's footwork or being under center or whatever it might be. So biggest free agent disappointment. There was a lot of free agents that came in, many of them attached to Frank Reich in previous stints with him at different teams. Who's one that you thought got hyped pretty well and just never really panned out?
I could go with either Hayden Hurst or Miles Sanders. I think more was expected of Miles Sanders. So at least from their standpoint, whether people bought into it or not outside the organization, but to give him a 4-year contract, I think, a running back, bringing him from Philadelphia, this was by far the biggest running back free agent signee in the league. And the fact that he isn't even really the starter, he's not the starting running back, even with that. Hayden Hurst would go in there, but we'll have to, of course, he has a significant injury. But even prior to that, one of the things about Frank Reich's offense, as we kept hearing, is he involves everybody and a lot with the tight end. And I thought we're going to have the first kind of pass-catching tight end that we haven't had for a number of years in this offense. But I don't put that at the top because they weren't as heavily invested in that. But they're heavily invested in Miles Sanders with the 4-year deal. So that's got to be the one that hurts more, is that they went out and did that and really didn't need it, because Chuba Hubbard, thank God, Chuba Hubbard stepped up and has played well because he really has made that not a big deal. And honestly, Tommy Tremble has stepped up at tight end, but I just don't think there was as big of an investment at the tight end position. It's not as critical. So probably I'd say Miles Sanders to answer your question the way it was asked.
Yeah, that was the biggest splurge they really had in free agency. And really looking back on free agency, they didn't spend a whole lot of money like on skill position players, which is something that David Tepper told us they weren't going to do on draft night. That's the reason why they drafted Bryce Young, according to his logic, that, he could be the point guard and they could spend less on skill position players. And I've mentioned it before, we all kind of skimmed over it at the time. We weren't really like, what did he say? We didn't really get into it. But as the season went on, I started looking at what they put there and how they performed. Most of my friends that aren't Panthers fans, they were like, well, you don't have a number 1 wide receiver. I'm like, well, one of these guys will emerge. Like, one of them could be the number 1 wide receiver. I was wrong. I mean, I guess it's stealing, but there's no one on the team. So because of that, and it's because of what they did. They spent the way they spent and kind of tried to save money in certain spots. And I'm hoping that this year that David Tepper realized you can't really do that. You kind of got to go all in like the way the 49ers have. So maybe we'll see a flip of the switch there. Finally, here with Jim Szoke from the Panthers Radio Network, giving our end of the season Panthers awards, giving them a week early here as the Panthers get ready to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Sunday on Fox. I know it was Flex. I don't know. Did they ever give a time for this yet, or is it still kind of floating out there when they're going to play here? I'm trying to.
Sunday's game?
Yeah. 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock on Fox.
We're
Okay, so they did play at 1. And that is at Bank of America Stadium. If the Panthers win, they can ruin Tampa Bay chances getting into the champions. I think they're waiting on the New Orleans game. They're both tied at 8-8 at the top of the division. That's something that I think bothers me most of all, is that whoever wins this division is going to be 9-8 probably. So unless they both lose, and then the winner will be 8-9, and it's just like, this division was right here for the taking, and we just couldn't get our stuff together. Who's a player, offense or defense, that you are looking forward to watch next year?
Well, I think it's again, I mentioned him a moment ago. I don't think it would be like some dramatically, but I've liked what they've gotten out of Tommy Tremble at tight end because of what we talked about, just having a pass catching athletic tight end. he's not complete yet, but he's improved each of the years, and they got him more involved this year. I like his athleticism. He's been a guy, I mean, in a year of kind of like a lot of down, that has had like a really positive attitude, as Chuba has as well, and some other players in the locker room who just not only play well, but they, they'll stand up and speak and have enthusiasm. You can tell that winning matters to them. Some of these guys are, it happens in every locker room. Some guys are more like individual contractors that are here for the moment and they'll be on another team next year. I think Tommy Tremble could be a guy. Again, I don't think he's going to set the world on fire, but I think, just to kind of solve that Rubik's Cube of what they have at tight end that's not been working the last couple of years, just to have an offensive skill position player there, not just a blocker. I think that's been a good one to watch and see his development. And he's a good guy. You root for him. So hopefully that continues in a positive way for him.
And just like that, we ended on a positive note. That's what I wanted, because it feels like too many times this year, whenever I've done a Panther segment, it's kind of ended on a so like this is
yeah,
good.
But we lost by 26. Yeah,
exactly right. Listen to Jim and the guys on the Panthers Radio Network this Sunday. Again, Panthers taking on the Bucks. Regular season finale for the Panthers, 1:00 p.m. on Fox. Appreciate you, Jim.
All right, thanks, Desmond. Always a pleasure.
Coming up, Conor ONeill will join us, who will preview the ACC Big Four Hoops weekend. Big Saturday in the ACC for men's hoops. We'll go through all 4 games. You're listening to Franchise Players here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
In professional sports, a franchise player is an athlete who is not simply the best player on their team, but one that the team can build their franchise around for the foreseeable future.
Well, welcome back to Franchise Players here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, part of your TGI Friday lineup here on WWBG 1470 AM every single Friday, loaded with sports talk. Shout out to Jim Szoke from the Panthers Radio Network and Jaelen Gilkey from WFMY News 2 for stopping in today. Rounding out the show, he is the editor and writer for Devils Illustrated and Deacons Illustrated, Conor ONeill. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing well. Great time of year. ACC basketball's here. This is so much fun.
It's took me about a month to finally get ACC basketball whittled into this hour show with everything going on with the Panthers on throwing stuff at people and not winning games and college football winding down and everything. So I'm happy to finally be able to divert my total attention to college basketball. I wanted to focus on this weekend in particular, ACC Big Four weekend hoops preview. So pretty big contest this weekend. We're gonna I think we might get a little bit of separation here in terms of the ACC at the top of it. Seems like there's a top 4 or 5 that are kind of separating themselves from the rest of the pack: Carolina, Duke, Miami, Wake, and Clemson. So we'll kind of see who's who and what's what after this weekend's over. Let's just start off with the biggest game probably of the weekend: 8th ranked UNC at 16th ranked Clemson. This is a 12 o'clock tip-off, ESPN2 on, I believe, in Hills Hoops. Earlier this week, Tyler Zeller was telling us that noon games are hard for college athletes because your whole routine is kind of thrown up in the air. Usually you're playing at night, so you've napped and done all these things all day. You're kind of waiting on the game, but noon kind of gets on you real fast. You're up in the morning, especially if you're the home team. So if you're the home team, you're rolling out of your own bed and kind of doing your regular routine, but it's at noon, so your body's just not ready to play at noon a lot of times. Give me the big storyline here and what to watch. This game's on ESPN2, 12 o'clock tip on Saturday.
Biggest thing I'd be interested in watching is how Carolina defends PJ Hall. I mean, he's the linchpin for Clemson. He's at the center of everything they do. They get him the ball at the top of the key, and he initiates offense. They want him to get the ball in the low block. They want to drive him. He steps out and shoots threes. It was like a minute or two into the game at Miami this weekend, and he hit a 3 from the logo. He's a legit NBA caliber center. It's going to be a hell of a matchup with him and Armando Bacot, and with 2 big guys that are going to bang in the post. It'll be a matter of what fouls get called, how physical the refs let them play. With this being a marquee matchup, I would imagine the best refs in the ACC will be on the game. You'll see guys like Ron Groover, Roger Ayers down there, Bert Smith. That's always that's kind of my minutia of a game, is to get there and check stat broadcast immediately to see who the refs are going to be. That'll tell you who is going to determine part of the game, really. And then guard play too. Like I don't know how I can talk about Carolina this long without mentioning RJ Davis. I think he quote unquote only had 16 points at Pitt, which stopped some crazy streak of 20+ point games.
Yep.
He's just playing so well right now. And Clemson will have answers for him. Like, Clemson has length on the perimeter. Chase Hunter is their point guard, and I think he's a good 6'2", 6'3". I really like Clemson. I think they have a lot of pieces. I'm a little concerned about their depth. They have injuries again. Alex Hemingway is always hurt, it seems like, but this is two of the best, I would say, three teams in the ACC right now. I think the separation is between Duke, Carolina, and Clemson. Mm-hmm. And then we'll see if the game in Winston can determine whether there's a fourth team that joins them.
Yeah, that's funny how that sets up. That's actually my very next one. Miami at Wake Forest at the Joel, 2:15 p.m. on the CW network tomorrow. Of course, covering the Deacons for Deacons Illustrated. You've seen this Wake Forest team all year. How good is Wake Forest in your mind? Like, can they really keep this going in terms of staying at the top half of the ACC? Because I don't think anybody really expected them to be where they are currently.
I think they can. I think Efton Reed changes everything about this team's complexion. He gives them a presence in the middle. I mean, you watch the games in Charleston before he was cleared, and you could just run a layup line to Wake's interior defense and score at will. And he changes that. He takes that away. You just remove that from the equation when he's in the game, at least. And he's also, it's the first time that Steve Forbes has had a post presence that you can put somebody on the low block and have as an option to throw the ball down there and get a turnaround hook shot, get him going up and under somebody, kick out for a three if they double the post. You know, they struggled in the post last year to get scoring. The year before, they had Dallas Walton, but he was more of a, finesse big. He'd step out and hit threes. He was really good defensively, but he wasn't somebody that you're putting on the block and giving the ball to 10 to 15 times a game in the low post. Yeah. That's what Efton can give you. And guy with the guard play, I would put Wake's backcourt up against Miami and Duke for being one of the best in the ACC, if not the best. You have three level scorers in Kevin Miller. I know everybody calls him Boopy. They have Kevin on the roster. I'm going to call him Kevin until I'm told otherwise.
I'm not calling a grown man Boopy.
Yeah, I cannot bring myself to do it. Maybe in February. But he's an electric point guard. Hunter Salas is closer to Alondas Williams than I thought anybody I'd see would be. Just a big athletic guard, and then Cam Hildreth is just kind of a bully. He can force his way into tough drivable matchups, and they all hit threes, and they're a dynamic team, man.
It does seem like Wake has some size compared to some other ACC schools. So happy for Coach Forbes. This is year 3 of Coach Forbes, or 4.
He'll tell you it's year 3 because he hated the COVID season so much and didn't really get a chance to recruit anything of that team. So it's year 4 for all intents and purposes, but in Steve's mind, it's year 3.
It's year 3. Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. So I'll let Steve rattle that one. I was going to bring up Virginia, NC State, but with these 3 games outside, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to skip over to Duke at Notre Dame.
Good, because I have no idea what to make of NC State.
Because I have NC State contender or pretender, but I'm like, we'll worry about them a little bit later on. If we
I need like 3 weeks to be able to answer that question.
14th ranked Duke at Notre Dame, 6 p.m. ACC network. Covered them for Devils Illustrated. Who's the most important player for Duke going forward in your mind from what you've seen so far? Because it seems like it switches like every week or 2.
That's an interesting. I still think it's the All-American. I think it's Kyle Filipowski. They run so much through him. I just talked about Efton Reed being a low post guy. I mean, against Syracuse, he was scoreless in the first half and sat for a large chunk of it with foul trouble. Duke comes out in the first 4 possessions of the second half. They go to him on the low block 3 times. twice he scores, and a third time he dishes to Mark Mitchell for a dunk. And they want to run everything through Flip, and that's his role. They're going to put him at the point at that center position, a lot like Clemson does with PJ Hall, and have him operate from there. He's a good enough passer that he can find cutters. The 1A is Flip. I think the 1B is honestly Jeremy Roach. Having a senior guard who's been through so much, seen everything college basketball has to offer, he's just so valuable. He's a guy that you can put the ball in his hands in clutch situations, and more often than not, he's going to come through. But that said, the last time Duke was on the road, he didn't come through. They lost at Georgia Tech with the ball in his hands on a baseline out of bounds play when he got swarmed by 3 defenders. So this is a big test for Duke. They haven't won on the road yet. Notre Dame is a beatable team on paper. I mean, Duke is a lot better on paper than them, but Notre Dame just blitzed Virginia by, I think, 22 last weekend up in South Bend. And if not for choking away the game on Wednesday night against NC State, they'd have back-to-back home wins.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a weird place to play. But this is kind of one that Duke needs to get to kind of set themselves up for March.
I was gonna say it kind of almost was like a trap game for Duke, because all I've heard is how bad Notre Dame is, but then they'll have these wins that are just like, well, where'd that come from? So it's like it's kind of hard to pin down what exactly Notre Dame is with a brand new head coach, with Mike Brey no longer there. And I agree, Duke's got to win this game. Like, this can't be one of those games where Duke, doesn't win it and then expects to figure prominently in March. So this is gonna be one of those games. If they do lose it, it might be one of those things that keeps Duke from going where they want to go in March. So it's weird how the tables have turned, because I feel like Carolina was in that boat last year in these kind of games where it was like, can't lose to Notre Dame, can't lose to Syracuse, can't lose to these teams. And now it's like, it feels like Duke's kind of having that issue, and Carolina kind of emerged out of non-conference with the pretty good non-conference slate. I think they have 3 quad 1 wins after all that. And I've got opportunity to get like 4 or 5 more before the year's over. So interesting games again. 8th ranked Carolina at 16th ranked Clemson, 12 p.m. tip-off on Saturday, ESPN2. Miami at Wake Forest, 2:15 p.m. on the CW, and 14th ranked Duke at Notre Dame, 6 p.m. on ACC Network. I assume you're going to probably be at the Joel for the Wake game.
I'll be at the Joel.
So you can catch Conor there, and you can follow Conor on Twitter at Conor ONeill _DI. Appreciate having you on, man.
Thanks, Des. Appreciate it.
And that's it for franchise players for Friday, January the 5th, 2024. So before anybody messages me and tells me that the Jaelen banner was wrong because it said 2023, I just realized it. So we're good to go. It's going to be 5 more times when I do that before I get it right. But you've been watching and listening to Franchise Players on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Have a great weekend.